Lady A here for Profile by Sanford.
Life's pretty full these days.
Rehearsing, performing, and balancing family.
I need a nutrition plan that's easy to follow.
I need one-on-one nutrition coaching.
I need a plan to keep up my energy.
Profile is transforming lives with one-on-one nutrition coaching and a customized plan.
Nearly 200,000 people have found their Profile plan, and we found ours.
Profile has a plan for you at profileplan.com.
That's profileplan.com.
Call 1-888-FARMERS to switch, and you could save an average of $470 on your auto insurance. That's a lot of money in just a few minutes. With savings like that, you could be lounging on an impractical amount of ornate and overpriced throw pillows you bought for your couch. But you won't, because you're better with money than that. That's why you're calling us in the first place. Call 1-888-FARMERS to get a quote today.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Based on average nationwide annual savings survey data July to December 2020. Underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate. Products not available in every state.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Jeffrey Epstein Show. I'm your host, Bobbycapucci, and this is Daily Drop number 399. What's going on, everybody? So tonight we have a rather slow night in Jeffrey Epstein news. So I figured I'd go to the archive and yank an article. The one I decided on tonight was one from February 29th, and it was from McClatchy, D.C. And it's a recap pretty much about what we know that Jeffrey Epstein owned, what the estate's assets were, what the, money he had on hand, and all of the different avenues that he might have had money that was on the books. Well, tonight we're going to go through and recap that stuff, the stuff that was known via this McClatchy DC article. Now, we know that he had a lot more than the stuff talked about. We know that he had some offshore companies that were obviously involved in money laundering and hiding money and transferring money from here to there. And we know that he set up funky banks down in the Virgin Islands that weren't even real banks. They weren't able to even conduct business in the Virgin Islands. They could only conduct business with entities that were not located in the Virgin Islands. So that alone should set off alarm bells for anybody who's given the case a look with a bit of a squint. Now, you add all of that up with all of the other assets that we know about, and we get to a number that's roughly around $634 million. That's roughly what they have on the books as far as Jeffrey Epstein's known assets, everything included, all chips pushed to the center of the table. But again, this is not proven, right? This is my guess, and in my estimation, I would guess that there's at least a couple hundred or a few hundred million more hidden, and who the hell knows where it's hidden offshore. But I would guess that someone like Darren Indike might know more than he's telling us, obviously, and Ghislaine Maxwell might be somebody else who was safeguarded with those secrets. Does she have access to these funds? Is that how she replenishes her wealth? I don't know. I don't have any evidence that says that's the case, but we know how close she was with Epstein, and we know that she was doing the same thing with the banksters that Epstein was. You know, she had her money being managed by the very same people that were managing Epstein. Even after they made Epstein leave, they were still managing Ghislaine Maxwell's money. So is it that big of a stretch that she could have access to some of these slush funds, some of these offshore accounts? All I'm saying is that I hope that's an avenue that they're pursuing. I hope that's something they're looking into. Because, that's a lot of money we're talking about that these people were laundering and skimming off the top. If everything was on the up and up, why would they try and structure? Why would they make all of those transactions at $7,500 a pop, 97 of them, as if that's not going to raise alarm bells? If everything was on the up and up, why not just take out one lump sum of money? You're not living week to week or paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't matter. That's how rich people operate. They always use lump sums of money. They buy houses in cash. They don't have payments. Payments are for poor people. for people who are slaves to debt. You know, all of us. But these people, forget it. So like I said, this article is from McClatchy, D.C. The author is Kevin G. Hall, and this article was originally published February 29th of 2020. I can't believe I'm already saying last year. For as crazy as 2020 was, the year flew by for me. Absolutely insane that we're already a year out, almost, a year to this date, in fact, February 29th, a month and some change out. Pretty mind-blowing. The estate of disgraced financier, pedophile, Jeffrey Epstein has been officially valued at $636.1 million, according to a new, verified inventory filed Friday in his probate case in the Virgin Islands. So, that's a whole lot of dough. That is a whole lot of money. $636.1 million. Now, does anyone out there really believe that is all the money that this dude had? You're telling me he didn't have a rainy day fund like the mafioso or like an El Chapo or, a kingpin would? They all have secondary plans. They all have money to go on the lam. They have money in banks overseas in case they have to disappear. So I wonder what Jeffrey Epstein's name would be, right? He goes to the bank and he's like, my name is Ron Mexico, like Michael Vick's was. I mean, it's ludicrous, but that's what these people do. And when you're involved in a criminal enterprise like Jeffrey Epstein, and you're somebody who's savvy and who knows people who are hip to this kind of shit, well, you have a plan, right? You're not going to get caught without having money that you can move around, money that nobody knows about, that you can draw upon if you're on the run. You can't go to your regular bank, right? You have to go to one of your offshore accounts, to an account in the Caymans or wherever you have the money stashed. And then that way you're able to keep a bit of anonymity and you're still able to function and live the lifestyle that you're used to, at least some semblance of it. So that's why these people do that. Epstein's finances, once the subject of mystery and speculation, are being laid bare as various parties, including those who were sexually abused by the multimillionaire, stake their claims to a portion of his assets. And that's all part of it, right? When they go into a trust and they have a compensation fund like this, it's going to be a lay it bare kind of situation. The estate's going to have to make a full accounting of what the assets are, what they're in possession of, how much money is available, and then that money has to be distributed by case, right? Depending on the severity of the case and whatever the courts decide. The 100-page document from Epstein's estate included a listing of 15 wholly owned limited liability companies, which are designed to disclose little public information and were valued at $201.5 million. So these are the LLCs we're always talking about, right? So now we're going back and going over this stuff with the benefit of the FinCEN files in our rearview mirror and now in our pocket, so we can look at them and say, oh, I see what we're talking about here with the LLCs. Well, there you go. Jeffrey Epstein had, right here alone, 15 that we knew about. And they were valued at $201.5 million. Does anyone think that those were the only ones that he had? Or are those the only ones that are registered, right? The ones that are, quote unquote, on the up and up. My guess would be that he could point to those ones and be like, hey, look, these are on my taxes. These are the only LLCs I have. I mean, come on, what are you, crazy? And he could refer to his tax return with these companies on them as a little bit of meat in the stew, right? Oh, yeah, well, I have LLCs. Of course, I'm not saying I don't have any. Look at these 15 that I'm going to show you right here. Meanwhile, there's 45 more that nobody knows about. Now, obviously, that number is just one I made up. I don't know if he has 45, right? But I think that there are several more at the very least that we don't know about. And I would not be surprised if Denise George with her expansive and thorough investigation, doesn't uncover a few more. These LLCs include Southern Financial Llc, valued at just under $180 million. The company was not described and does not appear to have been referred to in any prior documents. A footnote said the entity will be appraised and an updated value will be provided upon completion. So, this was one of those companies that they were keeping on the hush, right? This was one of those LLCs that Epstein and company didn't have disclosed. And remember, when the first number came out, it was pretty short on the dough. He was nowhere near $634 million. It was a lot less. And I think that there is a lot more even still that is yet to be uncovered. Even with how much money is being spent on the upkeep of these other properties that Epstein still has, and for paying, the cost of the estate and all of that, there is an ample amount of money. So, whatever the courts decide as far as payouts go, I don't see how there should be any problem as far as assets to distribute, funds to the people who were awarded these funds by the court, or in a lot of cases at this point through the compensation fund set up through the court. So, again, we're talking about a lot of money. And if they are digging forensically the way I think they are and the way they should be, I think even more money is going to get heaped upon that. I mean, we could easily approach $1 billion when all is said and done. It was not clear if the company was connected to Southern Country International, a similarly named Epstein company whose existence was first revealed by McClatchy Miami Herald. Of course, they're all connected, right? They might not have the same function, or they might have a different business report or way of, the way they're supposed to do business, or what sort of business they should conduct. But they all have the same goal in mind: a way for these people to hide their money, a way for them to launder their money and avoid paying the taxes on this money that everybody else has to pay. And we see it over and over and over again. And not just with these business people either. How many of these politicians have been caught up in papers like in reports like the Panama Papers or the FinCEN files? Yeah, I mean, you could just go on and on and on and on. All of these great leaks by these courageous-ass journalists who are putting it all on the line. And I don't compliment these knucklehead journalists too often. But the people who worked on the FinCEN files, even if I disagree with other work that they might have done on other projects, that doesn't mean you can't stand up and applaud them for what they have done here. This is good journalism. And the things that they have uncovered in their reporting with not just the FinCEN files, but also the Paradise Papers, the Panama Papers, and how they have shed light on how the richest amongst us continue to exploit not only the system, but the poorest amongst us, I think that is something that should be definitely applauded. And we see with the Jeffrey Epstein story, when we go back and we look at the way he was conducting himself offshore and the way he was moving money, and the fact that a lot of this money with all of these shady companies was being moved to or fro people like Leon Black, well, I don't know how anyone can't put the pieces together and understand that at the very least, and that's all I've been saying from the jump, at the very least, this needs a real good, hard look, real good investigation. And with the subpoenas that are being sent in the Virgin Islands and the Seco case that's going on down there, I think that Denise George is doing a really good job. I would like to see the SDNY be as thorough. I would like to see them be as thorough in their criminal investigation in New York. Because when you look at all of this, how in the hell can these people possibly get away with the fact that they were sending money to and from a criminal organization, a criminal enterprise that was engaging in human trafficking to benefit and enrich themselves and their partners? How can these people not face penalties? Concern about how Epstein's funds were being documented has led to Virgin Islands attorney General Denise George placing liens on the estate. Just last week, the executors of the estate complained in a court filing that checks to those maintaining his properties were beginning to bounce because of the liens. Aw, cry me some crocodile tears. Get a skeleton crew, like I said at the time. Get a skeleton crew. Plenty of people that are out of work right now that would love to take those jobs. You don't need to be spending an opulent amount of money. How about we audit that and make sure that they've bidded those jobs out and that those jobs aren't going just to their friends? Because I know it's a cynical approach to take, but when you're dealing with criminals in a criminal enterprise, you got to think, are they getting a kickback for pushing business towards one of these companies? Yeah, we'll pay you so-and-so amount of money, but we get 10% on the slide. And that's how it works in the criminal world. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going on here, but can we trust these people, the executors of this estate? Obviously not. Denise George doesn't think so. So why should any of us believe that they're trustworthy or that what they say is the truth? I'm going to defer to the investigation that Denise George has going on down there, and I'm going to defer to the fact that if she didn't find any fire where the smoke was, there wouldn't be all of these subpoenas. That's not how a fishing expedition works. So these are targeted with names of companies, and it's very, very expansive. So I don't want to hear shit about, oh, we can't fund the maintenance of the properties. Yeah, right. Epstein's estate includes 10 corporate entities that were wholly owned by him, valued at $426.2 million. The most valuable of these, Southern Trust Company Incorporated, at $233.6 million. This was the Virgin Islands entity that received lucrative tax breaks for 10 years in exchange for creating a purported data mining company. A company that was never created, by the way. No data mining ever occurred. Jeffrey Epstein just happened to score sick-ass tax breaks from Virgin Island officials. And that's why I'm against the Virgin Islands profiting here via cash. Unless, of course, they go after these people that gave Jeffrey Epstein these sweetheart deals, that hooked him up with these sorts of tax breaks. Then if you're not going to prosecute those people, then why should there be any sort of money coming your way? If there was a crime there, then prosecute those people. And then you have it on the books, and when you try and get money in a civil manner, it makes it look a little bit more feasible, right? And it doesn't make it look like it's a money grab. Because the Virgin Islands, and not Denise George by any means, right? Don't get it twisted. I think Denise George is doing a good job here. I think the Virgin Islands should share some of the shoulder some of the blame, because of the way that they conducted themselves for all of these years, giving Epstein all of these hookups, making sure he wasn't getting taxed, all of that jazz. So of course they should face a little bit of the heat for their part in it. And I think a fair enough penalty is them getting $0 in restitution. That should be their part of the penalty. But Denise George could really parlay this into a future career. Imagine if Denise George from the United States Virgin Islands is the one to bring this ring down and to get all kinds of indictments down here financially in some sort of RICO case. It would be a coup d'etat for her. She would be able to write her ticket in any one of the major offices and probably run for office down in the Virgin Islands and win without it even being a problem. Attorney General George brought a civil enforcement action last month, CECO, in the Virgin Islands against the Epstein estate, expanding the action to include Southern Trust, claiming the executors of his will and his businesses were part of a criminal enterprise. So there you have it, folks. We have the Attorney General of the Virgin Islands calling this a criminal enterprise. So when you hear me talk about criminal enterprise, that's not hyperbole. That's not just something I'm throwing out there to try and sound smooth or to make it more engaging. That's what the authorities think about this. Now, the SDNY is going to be a lot more careful with what they're talking about because they haven't really opened up the RICO end of this case as of yet. And until they do so, they got to play their cards pretty close to the chest. But everything's out in the open now down in the Virgin Islands as far as this civil RICO case goes. And them being part of a criminal enterprise feeds right in to that SECO case. And that's how she's going to prosecute it. And it's a shrewd move on her part, honestly. A very shrewd move. Through his corporations, Epstein owned 2 neighboring private islands in the Virgin Islands. Little St. James and Great St. James are respectively valued at $63.2 million and $23.4 million. George has placed a lien on them, hoping to claw back ownership to redress alleged crimes as well as misrepresentations to tax authorities in the territory. And again, I don't really dig that. I don't think that that's the proper way to go for Denise George. Maybe if they can get some more money out of it at some point, there could be some sort of restitution that has to be paid. But I think that before any of that even happens, that the authorities that put Epstein in business down there, they should be prosecuted. They should be referred to prosecution, and they should be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law for aiding and abetting a criminal enterprise. The estate has blacked out some information in the documents, including a portion dealing with a person associated with the company used to facilitate Epstein's purchase of Great St. James. The reason for the redaction is unclear. A story by McClatchy Miami Herald last October documented irregularities associated with Epstein's acquisition of the island. And now, remember, he had a beard who purchased the island for him. The gentleman from Saudi Arabia. I forget his name right now. Anyway, that was the person whose name it was purchased in. And it definitely draws questions of why it was purchased in someone else's name. Why wasn't it in Epstein's name? And it also just deepens the questions about Epstein's ties to Saudi Arabia in general. We know about the passport. Epstein was found dead on August 10th in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan, where he was awaiting a trial after a series of events that followed the Miami Herald's Perversion of Justice investigation series. The death was ruled a suicide, allegedly. Epstein's property in France, among his homes in Palm Beach, Manhattan, and New York and New Mexico, as well as the Virgin Islands, was valued at around $9.8 million, included cash on hand there. French authorities are looking into his business associates. Yeah, and well, we know now that one of those business associates was obviously Jean-Luc Burnell, who's rotting away in a cell right now in France, awaiting his time in court, awaiting to face his accusers for his alleged crimes. After all of these years, this guy was on an historic run of committing crimes, according to all of these girls. And now, finally, he's sitting in a jail cell. So again, it's always nice to go back and look at these articles and see where we were a year ago and compare it to where the case is now. And look at all of the progress. For as slow as the wheels of justice grind, there has been a ton of progress and a lot of people feeling the fallout. The inventory did not place a value on the 50% stake in American Yacht Harbor held by an Epstein entity, leaving that to a future appraisal. The other 50% stake in the Virgin Islands business belongs to a company controlled by New York-based Island Capital, whose chairman and CEO is mega developer Andrew L. Farkas. The company's senior managing director, Mark P. Londy, appears in the 2019 annual reporting document provided by the estate. So again, Epstein had a bunch of different partners, a bunch of different people whose thread we have not even pulled on yet. We haven't dug deep on Andrew Farkas. We've talked about him a little bit, but we haven't dug deep. Maybe that's a deep dive coming up. Another LLC called Plan D holds title to Epstein's 2007 Gulfstream jet, which had an insurable value of $17 million. The sum of Epstein's cash, said lawyers in the Virgin Islands and the United States in their verified inventory, was almost $7.6 million. The estate listed 3 vehicles worth $53,000, including a 1964 dune buggy, 7.6 million, huh? Again, that just sounds low to me. Now, I might be way off, and it might just have been 7.6 million. But for a guy like Epstein, you would figure there would be even more than that sitting around. 15, 20, 30 million. Now, maybe he has 20 million sitting in a safe in New Mexico. I mean, nobody's raided Zorro Ranch yet, so how the hell do we know? Maybe it's all sitting there. Not on the list was a late model Bentley that the estate said in its preliminary filing had been sold but did not indicate to whom or where. A similar make and model Bentley had been available for sale on the popular website CarMax at the time. Imagine you go buy a Bentley and it's Jeffrey Epstein's. That would be my luck, dude. I'd go out and spend, $150,000 on a Bentley. I'm all pumped up. I'm like, bro, I got me a Bentley. I finally made it. I'm about to drive this bitch around the country or whatever. Oh, it was Jeffrey Epstein's, huh? I wonder, you have to disclose that shit beforehand, right? Like a house where someone was murdered. You can't just foist that on somebody. Hey, look, this was Jeffrey Epstein's. Ha, see you later. That's so messed up. But I wouldn't doubt it, honestly, being on CarMax. It's a way to sell it. I mean, if they're looking for a quick sale, I'm sure CarMax has no problem dinging them for, 15, 20, 50 grand off or whatever the hell the depreciation value is on it. A footnote in Friday's report said a 2018 Mercedes Maybach located in Paris was sold for approximately $133,000, with proceeds placed in the estate's checking account. The estate's filing noted that Epstein's artwork, collectibles, jewelry, and watches had not yet been valued by appraisers. Well, we know we've heard that the art has been appraised at around 200 million or so. I believe that's the number. I'll have to go back and check that, but I believe it's like 200 million. So if that's the case, wouldn't that bring the total amount to 834 million that we know about? In that range. And you tack on a measly 200 million more, and we're at the $1 billion mark. So how much money does this guy have stashed overseas? And just how hard is the SDNY going after it? And just how much is Denise George going to uncover? I guess we're going to have to see as this all plays out, aren't we, folks? Because the days are ticking off. They're turning into weeks. Soon the weeks are going to turn into months. And before you know it, it's going to be criminal trial time for Ghislaine Maxwell. And we're really going to see just exactly what sort of case the federal government plans on bringing and who else is going to be caught up in the fallout. If you'd like to contact me, you can do that at Bobbycapucci at protonmail.com. That's BOBBYCAPUCCI at protonmail.com. You can also find me on Twitter at BOBBY_CAPUCCI. All of the links that go with this episode can be found in the description box. All right, everybody, I'll be back tomorrow. It'll probably be a late morning update. We'll see what time I get home from the mountains, but either way, I'll be back tomorrow at some point, and we will pick up where we left off. Have a great night, everyone.
Call 1-888-FARMERS to switch, and you could save an average of $470 on your auto insurance. That's a lot of money in just a few minutes. With savings like that, you could be lounging on an impractical amount of ornate and overpriced throw pillows you bought for your couch. But you won't, because you're better with money than that. That's why you're calling us in the first place. Call 1-888-FARMERS to get a quote today.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Based on average nationwide annual savings survey data July to December 2020. Underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate. Products not available in every state.
Ashley Home Store's 76th anniversary sale is going on now, and we're celebrating in style. For a limited time, get up to 30% off, plus pay 0% interest for 76 months. Or choose 24 months 0% interest, plus 45% off on furniture styles you'll love for years to come. These anniversary furniture and mattress savings are only available for a limited time, so hurry in to shop and save today. Only at America's #1 furniture and mattress store, Ashley Home Store. This is home.